Welcome friends. Today's topic for discussion is human right of socially and economically disadvantaged group. Our focus will be on indigenous people, scheduled caste, scheduled tribe, minorities, aged person with disabilities, stateless person, migrant worker, sex worker, and HIV and AIDS victim. Conceptual framework, the substantive equality under the constitutional jurisprudence. Equality is not merely a formal but a corrective in nature, permitting differential treatment in eliminating historical disadvantage under the Indian Constitution, Article 14, Article 15, 16, 46. Non-discrimination of the people in international law recognized under Article 2 of UDHR, ICCPR, ICESCR prohibits discrimination based on race, sex, religion, nationality, disability, and other status. Affirmative action of and social justice model. State is empowered to adopt a protective discrimination measure supported by a landmark judgment of Indira Swani versus Union of India 1992. Human dignity as a core constitutional value. Article 21 interpreted including includes dignity, livelihood, privacy, social security, dignity from foundation of the modern human rights jurisprudence. Status of disadvantaged people. Poverty and economic deprivation, the chronic income insecurity, lack of ownership, limited access to credit and financial inclusion mechanism, social marginal and exclusion, systematic exclusion from the mainstream institution due to caste, ethnicity, gender, disability, minority status, limited access to basic service, inadequate access to the quality education, primary health care, sanitation, housing, and social security benefit, structural and institutional discrimination, deep-rooted inequalities embedded within the social structure, labor market, and governance system, intergenerational disadvantage, poverty, social exclusion transmitted across generation due to lack mobility opportunities, need for welfare state and affirmative action, a constitutional mandate for the protective discrimination, targeted welfare scheme, and inclusion development policies. Indigenous people and the role of UN. UN Declaration of the Rights of the Indigenous People 2007 recognized the collective right of the indigenous communities, including cultural integrity, traditional institution, and self-governance. Through non-binding, it carries strong normative authority in international law. ILO Convention number 169 of 1989, legally binding treaty on indigenous people and tribal people, protects land right, consultation right, and socio-economic development. Core right recognized: right to self-determination, right to traditional land and natural resource, right to cultural preservation, identity protection against forced displacement, UN monitoring and institutional mechanism, UN Permanent Forum and on indigenous issues, special rapture of right to of indigenous people, expert mechanism on the right of indigenous people. ST, SC scenario in India. Protective discrimination under the Constitution, Article 15.4, special provision for the socially and educationally backward class, that is SCs and STs. Article 16, reservation in public employment. Article 46, directive principle, promotion of educational and economic interest of scheduled caste and scheduled tribe, protection from social injustice, scheduled caste and scheduled tribes, prevention of atrocities act 1989, enacted to prevent caste-based violence and discrimination, provides special courts, enhanced punishment and victim rehabilitation, reservation policy and affirmative action, reservation in the education, public employment and political representation. Article 330 and 332 aimed at achieving the substantive equality rather than formal equality. Judicial endorsement on social justice, that is Indira Swani versus Union of India 1992. Validate reservation framework subject to 50% rule. State of Kerala versus V.N. Thomas 1976. Equality permits differential treatment to remove disadvantage. Social justice recognized as a part of constitutional philosophy. Landmark judgment. State of Kerala versus N.M. Thomas. What was the issue? Validity of the relaxation in qualifying marks for the STs and STs candidate in promotion exams. Equality under Article 14 is not merely a formal equality. Differential treatment to remove the historical disadvantage in the constitutionally valid. Laid down for the doctrine of substantive equality. Indira Swani versus Union of India Mandal case, constitutional validity of 27% reservation for the OBCs, reservation in the constitutionally permissible under Article 16(4). Introduced the 50% ceiling rule with exceptional circumstances, clarified distinction between backward classes and creamier doctrine of substantive equality. Equality means equitable treatment, not identical treatment. Permit affirmative action to achieve social justice, recognized as a part of the constitutional commitment to equality. Human right for the aged. International perspective. Mandate international plan on aging 2002 adopted by the UN to address aging in the 21st century. Focused areas: older people and development. Advancing health and well-being, ensuring enabling a supportive environment, recognize the elderly as a right holder, not merely a welfare participant. What is the Indian framework? Legal obligation of the children relative to maintain senior citizen, establishment of the maintenance tribunal, provision for the old age home, constitutional protection under Article 20. Right of the person with disabilities, international instrument, United Nations Convention on the Right of the Person with the Disabilities. 2006, adopted in 2006. India is a signatory and ratified it in 2007. Shift the approach of the charity medical model to a right-based social model of disability. What are the core principles? Respect of integrity, inherent dignity, non-discrimination, full and effective participation, equality of opportunity, accessibility. Right of the Person with the Disabilities Act 2016 provides 4% reservation in the government employment, 5% reservation in the higher education, special courts for the speedy trial of offence penalty for discrimination. Minority declaration on the right of the person belonging to the national, ethnic, religious and the linguistic minority adopted by the United Nations General Assembly recognize the right of the minority to enjoy their own culture, process their practice, their religion, use their own language, emphasize state obligation to the protect minority identity and participation. Constitutional protection, Article 2930, culture and educational right. Article 29 speaks about protect the right to conserve the language, script and culture. Article 30 speaks about grant minority the right to establish and administer educational institution of their own choice, apply the religious linguistic minorities. This provision reflects the principle of pluralism within the constitutional democracy. National Commission for the Minorities Act 1992 advises the government on the minority welfare policies, investigates and complaint regarding to the deprivation of the rights, monitor safeguards provides under the constitution, establish the National Commission for Minorities. Overview of vulnerable groups, politically voiceless and socially excluded groups, vulnerable groups and human right protection. This includes the social groups that are historically lacks political representation, lacks access to decision making process, lacks in economic resource, social mobility. What are the examples in Indian context? That are scheduled caste, scheduled tribe, religious and linguistic minority, women, person with disabilities, elderly person. Role of the human right. Article 21 of the Constitution, right to life and personal liberty, interpreted to include the right to live with dignity. Article 14, 15, 16, human right laws shifts focus from formal equality to substantive equality. That is equitable outcome. Now comes the stateless person. A convention relating to the status of the stateless person defines who is a stateless person, provides minimum standard of treatment, ensures access to identity document, education, employment, and court. Convention on the Reduction of Statelessness aims to prevent and reduce the statelessness, obligates states to grant nationality to a person born in their territory who would otherwise be stateless, restrict to arbitrary deprivation of nationality. Right to nationality, UDHR Article 15. Everyone has the right to nationality. No one shall be arbitrarily deprived of nationality. Everyone has the right to change nationality. Denial of civil right. Core challenges. Stateless person often faces the inability to vote and hold public office. Denial of passport and identity document. Barrier to education and employment. Restricted access to healthcare. Risk of detention and deportation. Sex worker and human right. Article 21, that is right to dignity. No person shall be deprived of his personal life and liberty except according to the procedure established by law. That is Article. Judicial interpretation has expanded Article 21 to include right to live with dignity, right to livelihood, right to health, protection against sexual exploitation, right to rehabilitation. The Supreme Court has consistently held that dignity is the core of the constitutional value, especially for the marginalized and exploited person. Immoral Traffic Prevention Act prevent trafficking for commercial and exploitation, penalize brothel keeping, procuring and trafficking, protect women and children from exploitation, provide rescue and rehabilitation mechanism. The act do not criminalize victim but target exploitation network. Constitutional protection.